What's the most intimidating thing about sewing your own pants? Fitting them! One tiny little misstep can take you from pert and perky to soggy diaper in a matter of seconds. But what if I told you there was an easier way? A way that's appropriate for both historical and modern makes. One that uses very little math and supplies that you already have in your own home. Do you think I'm crazy? Do ya? Do ya? It's not crazy. It's genius! Hey y'all, Jackie here and welcome to Fantastical Follies. What's this genius way of making pants? Not reinventing the wheel. That's what. Today I'm going to show you how to take a pair of pants that already fit and draft it into a block that works for everything. I'll show you step by step how to address your fit issues. Then I'll show you how to adapt your block into the specific design that you want, with pockets. Woohoo! Okay, let's draft this thing. Supplies. So there are a couple of things you need. You're gonna need some scrap paper, some tape maybe to tape your scrap paper together, a pencil. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to be using a felt tip pen so that the camera will pick it up better, but you definitely want to use a pencil for this because you can erase it. A straight ruler, the larger the better. Whoa. Did that pick up? Hello. What was I saying? Straight ruler, clear if you have it. Just a regular 12-inch ruler will suffice if that's all you've got. If you have a French curve, this is really gonna come in handy, but don't go out and buy one if you don't have one. You'll be fine without it. Trust in your ability to curve. These are the pants that I'm going to use to draft this pattern. I think they fit me pretty well. I'm comfortable with them. They hit me at the right spot up here. I think they're fairly flattering for what they are. I've got my pants here, sitting on them. Now, unfortunately, the tie here is sewn in. I can't take it off, which is really annoying, but we'll deal with it. So there's a couple of things you need to take into consideration before you draft your pattern. Firstly is, how is the waistband attached? Are the bottom of the pants gathered to the waistband? And the answer to that is no, I don't think so. It is a little bit wavy, but I think that's because the waistband material is wavy. Yeah, I think that the pants are as wide as the waistband is. So I think it's gonna be a straight draft. The second is, where are the seams? So the seams of this is actually cut in one piece. I am not going to do that. I'm gonna cut like a front and a back. So we're gonna have to mark the center. That's gonna be a little bit more difficult. And then if there's any other kind of notes, like I'm gonna put pockets in mine. These don't have pockets. Let's turn it inside out. Now, because these particular pants have a lot more stretch, I'm gonna give myself about 1/2 of an inch on the front panel and the back panel, just to give myself a little bit of breathing room. Drafting the front. In the end, I decided to use wrapping paper for this initial trace because I didn't feel like taping together a bunch of sheets. If you have gridded wrapping paper, it's really helpful in a situation like this. If your pants are like mine that only have one seam, even that out to find your side seam. Now measure the distance from the top of the pants down to the bottom. Mark this distance on your paper. Line up the edge of your pants to your marks. Instead of using pins, I suggest using pattern weights to weigh down your fabric. I'm using cans here, but books work too, whatever you have on hand. This will keep the fabric from shifting as you do this. Draw the outside line. Then, starting at the bottom, draw up the inseam. Now comes the hard part, the crotchal region. Woo! Straighten it out best you can, keeping the rest of the pants out of the way. Take your time and draw it out. That's draw out the curve, not draw out the process. Now true up your lines. I used the straight ruler for most of it. Then I went in and added the extra space I was talking about earlier. I chickened out and only did 1/4 of an inch, which is going to bite me in the butt here coming up. Then use your French curve if you have it to smooth everything out. If you don't, just eyeball it. Drafting the back. Now we're going to do the same thing to the back of the pants. While I'm doing that, let's talk about why this method is so great. Firstly, we all have that pair of pants stashed in our closet that we wore to pieces and loved to death and just haven't had the heart to get rid of. This is a great way to make those pants live on. And once you have a block that fits, you can Franken pattern this into anything that you want. So my plans for this block is to take it and make it into a pair of wide-legged palazzo pants with historical stylings. I'm also going to use this to draft some masculine wear for my feminine body that actually fit. If y'all remember the pirate pants I did earlier this year that weren't that successful, well, let's just say that my 17th century Captain Hook is gonna look a lot better after this. Don't forget to mark your fronts and backs. I now have my front and my back cut out. I'm gonna cut this out of just plain muslin, zip it together, put a 2-inch waistband on it, and see where we're at, and then we'll make some adjustments from there. Oh, and I wanted to tell you, that only took me about 25 minutes. Didn't really take that long. It's not that bad. Handy tip, write F and B on the front and back of your mock-up so that you know which way you're putting it on. I've been trying to figure out a modest way to do this because I feel like this is so important that we learn how to fit these together. Yes, I look quite silly. We're gonna go with it though, okay? So the first thing is that I had to essentially let out all of the seams by about 1/4 of an inch because it was too tight on my thighs, which I predicted. The other pants stretch and my thighs always have a challenge fitting into pants. And also the side seam is right where the side seam should be. However, that's a problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin this like this until they stay up, which I'm gonna have to do in the mirror. And when I'm finished, I'll come back and show you what it looks like. It's still not perfect, but I think part of the thing is that it's not staying up because it doesn't have the waistband on it. I think I'm happy with it the way it is. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and slap on the waistband. Just to give an explanation of the changes, I had this pinched all the way down and I let it out until the wrinkling here was less noticeable. Obviously, there is still some wrinkling. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of wrinkling. I don't want to take it in anymore because I can still sit down in this without popping the pins, and that tells me that there's room to move. I'm gonna go ahead and get the waistband on and let's take a look at it from there. We're almost there. I've got a little bit of a dip here, so I'm gonna have to extend this up a little bit, but I suspected that was going to be the case. Also, this is happening now. So I think what I can do is just pin this like that. I pinched and pinned a couple of times. It's getting better, but as you can see, I'm still getting wrinkles on the inner thigh. Okay, I think we're just about there. So I let out the inseam just a little bit more, and then I also pinched in the crotch just a little bit in the front. I think that did a world of good. I'm going to baste all of my changes together, and I think I'm just going to wear this around the house for a little bit and see how they function and whether I'm tugging anywhere or anything like that, and from there I will make some decisions. All right, wish me luck, y'all. Now remember, every single body is different. The modifications that I'm making here may not be the modifications that you make. So I do have a sway back, so a lot of the modifications I'm making in the center back are because of the way that my back is shaped. I found a couple of really good resources for addressing specific fit issues with pants, and I've linked them in the description below. If you have any other good resources, please leave a comment below and I will go ahead and add them to the master list. Let's build a database of information that people can easily access and hopefully try and take some of the mystery out of fitting pants. I feel pretty confident with what I have so far. It's definitely not perfect. So the plan for today is to make another mock-up. The first thing I'm going to do is I am actually going to cut up my mock-up on the seam lines of the toile that I've made. This is so that I get an accurate depiction of where my new seams are after I've pinched and pinned. We're doing this low math, remember. Then I'm gonna iron everything out so it's straight-ish, redraw at least the crotch area on a sheet of paper. Then I'm going to add just a tiny little bit to the inner thigh on the front because it was still wrinkling a little bit there, and I think I just need a little bit more space. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and add the seam allowances to my lines that I've made, and then I'm going to iron out the fabric and cut this out using the grain lines and assemble it and try it on. The idea is I want to be as accurate as possible for this because I'm hoping that maybe I won't have to make too many more adjustments on my pattern. So fingers crossed, let's go get started. One thing I suggest when truing up your lines is to use different colored pens for each piece. I'm using purple to draw one side out and green for the other. Then I'll take an orange pen and find the happy medium between my two lines, since you don't always get something symmetrical using the pinch and pin method. Use your ruler to fix the straight edges and the French curve for the curvy bits. A clear ruler is awesome for this job, but as always, use what you have. I'm adding a generous 5/8 of an inch seam allowance to this just in case I have to make further modifications. Okay, here's my second draft. So that just about did it. They're pretty comfortable. I think they look great. However, as I was wearing them, I found that I was kind of walking around and kind of tugging them down in the front. And when I sat down, they were cutting upward in a very uncomfortable way. So that tells me that I need to lengthen the crotch in the front. So to do that, first I'm going to cut at a central point on the front of my trousers. Now, most commercial patterns should have a lengthen and shorten line attached to it, but since obviously we're making our own pattern, we don't have one, and so I'm just kind of guessing where the best place is going to be. So I'm gonna cut all the way, but I'm going to leave about an 1/8 of an inch at the sides, like a hinge, because what we want to do is fade the extension into nothing by the time we reach the side of the pants. Otherwise, the leg will be longer in the front than it will in the back. We don't want that. After I've made my cut, I'm going to attach a strip of fabric about an inch and a half wide to the top of my trousers. And then I'll put it on, and we're going to, in very small increments, move the bottom part of the trousers down and pin so that we are extending very slightly the line of the crotch until it's comfortable. And then I'm gonna start with just 1/4 of an inch and go from there. Like corsetry, we're dealing with very small changes that make very big differences. So we wanna start with a little bit and work our way down as we need to. So after I make each little adjustment, I'm going to sit down, walk around until both walking and sitting are comfortable. And I think then we will be ready to transfer all of our markings to paper. Fingers crossed. That did the trick. Here you can see my marks where I changed it. The initial trial was just a little too small, so I lengthened it one time and found a good fit. I measured the distance of the gap in the center and I got 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so now we're going to add our changes to the actual pattern. I measured down the same amount from the top to the point of cutting and drew a straight line. Then I marked my hinge line, which I put 3/8 of an inch away from the edge of the pant, not including the seam allowance. With the hinge cut, I taped a spare bit of paper beneath my pattern. Then I measured 3/4 of an inch down my center front and taped open the wedge. I also needed to take in the sides of my pants a little since the waist was still a bit too big. It averaged about 3 inches on each side, so I'll take 1.5 inches away from the side front. And then I'll take another 1.5 inches from the side back. I transferred all of my changes onto a fresh, clean sheet of paper and boom! Now we have a pants block. Notice that I took care to mark every bit of information I would need in the future, including whether it was a front or a back, the seam allowance, how many pieces I need to cut, as well as the amount of hem. I always like to give myself a little extra, and the grain line, because that's important. We want to make sure that we put all of our information down so we don't forget in 6 months when we go back to this pattern. So we have our block. Now what? Let's take this fantasy and turn it into reality. Or is it the other way around? Now that you have this block set, you can Franken pattern it onto any other pants pattern that you want. For example, I'm going to be taking this pattern in a few months and turning it into a pair of masculine breeches. So if you are excited to see how I do that, don't forget to subscribe, and you can hit the little notification bell to get notified when I upload content. I want to make a wearable mock-up to test everything out and make sure that my changes are good. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a basic pair of palazzo pants out of these. We're going to widen the leg, we're going to widen the waist and gather it down with an elasticized waistband. Nice and simple, add some pockets. Let's go. So I found this is cotton jersey that I dyed years ago. There's a lot of it. There's like 5 yards. I think originally I was going to make like a full circle dress with this stuff, but it's super heavy and I didn't dye it that well. So that's not gonna happen. So what I'm gonna do is do a quick wearable mock-up out of this stuff. Let's get down and start tracing this onto paper. Now I've already added a significant amount of width to these pants just in the process of drafting this out. The original pants width was about 12 inches and these are about 16. I think it's 15 in the back and 16 in the front. I want to add a full 8 inches to the front panel and a full 10 inches to the back panel. Generally, your pants are going to be wider in the back than they are in the front because you have more, in theory, in the back than in the front. Logic, right? So what I'm gonna do first is I am going to take all of that careful work I did taking in the sides of the pants to make it fit my waist. We're gonna true up those and make them straight again, and then measure that out, and whatever the difference is between the 8 inches in the front and the 10 inches in the back, from that measurement is how much width I'm going to add to the leg. I am a little concerned about how that's going to look, so I'm actually going to use the mock-up I already have constructed and add additional fabric on the sides to that, and then slash and spread and cut and add the width on those and test it out just to make sure it doesn't look bad before I modify my pattern and put it onto the good fabric. Or I guess we should say it's the semi-good fabric, since it's not actually the real pants, it's the wearable mock-up. When I've decided whether that's weird or not, I'll come back and let you know. That was not successful. I look like I'm wearing a diaper. So part of it is, I think that I gathered it down to the waistband first. I think the gathers in the front in particular are just not flattering. So I think a part of that can be alleviated by making the front smooth. I did kind of chicken out with adding the extra in the back and the front in the center, and I'm really glad I did because I think it would have looked even worse if I had done that. However, I like the width of the pant for the final pant that I'm going to make, and I think it'll look less like a diaper when I do what I'm planning on doing on those particular pair of pants. I don't want to talk about that right now because I'm harboring a secret and I'm really excited about it. So I don't want to give away too much right now. I think I'm going to go ahead and make these blue pair of pants less wide, and I think it'll look a lot better. Let me get down onto the floor and I'll show you how I'm going to make the modifications for these. Since I already have a copy of my pants block that I know fits, I'm going to use this as my pattern piece. The first time I measured 2 inches away from center front and sliced there, but I want a smoother front, so instead I'm going 4 inches away from center front. Then I sliced the line and added extra paper to it. I'm expanding it by 3 inches, so I drew a line and cut, and then added the center front back to the paper. Then, using the leg portion of my original pattern, I measured how long I wanted my outer leg to be and taped up the pant leg. Then it was just a matter of filling up the rest of the space. For the sake of not being super repetitious, I'm not going to show you the exact way that I made these pants because I'm going to be showing you when I make the final pair. And y'all, I have a really awesome surprise for you with those, so stay tuned. All right. Let's go look at the final product. So all in all, these are quite comfortable pants. I definitely think they need some improvements and tweaks. Still, you can see they're kind of buckling in the center a little bit, but that has nothing to do with my drafting process and has to do with the fact that I didn't go far out enough on my pattern before I widened the leg. That's on me, that's not on the drafting process. If you're looking to do this for a pair of pants for yourself, just know like that has everything to do with where I widened the pants. So in my final pants, I'm going to be moving the width of the fabric out probably a little bit further than the 4 inches. I did sort of rush this mock-up at the end. I cracked my phone the week that I'm filming this video. Given that I film almost everything on my phone, it has made filming a video extremely difficult. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with these. I'm gonna wear them a little bit and we'll pick back up with this in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, leave me a comment below and tell me what your favorite cheese is. For every person who tells me what their cheese is, I will attempt to give you a bit of cheese related humor. If you'd like to see more crazy content like this, YouTube is telling me that this is going to be a good video for you to watch next, so don't forget to check that out. I'll catch y'all in my next video and have a good day.